Almost there. All right.
Good to go.
Good to go.
Wonderful. Well, glad to see everybody as they are coming in. Good morning, everybody. My name is Calvin Whitehurst. I'm with the Virginia Main Street crew. And thank you all for attending today's Mobilizing Main Street huddle. So, as you all know, today's huddle will be about mapping the assets and framing your strategy for your Main Street. We'll proceed. All right. So, just so everybody is aware, and out of respect for everybody here, if you could please take the time to mute yourself and please keep your camera on because we love to see all of your beautiful faces, especially as we start to get into breakout rooms. And just so everybody is aware, this webinar is also being recorded. So, and also if you need to do any sort of, you'd like to converse as we move into some of the breakouts as well, you can use the chat function to throw a message in the chat, or if you have any questions or comments as we proceed. Yeah. Alrighty, so for today's objective for the huddle, we are going to be preparing you for the MSA transformation strategy technical assistance. To develop a market-based transformation strategy that incorporates community input and market data to guide and strengthen local revitalization efforts. MSA puts together a pretty nice package for you all, so we're going to be proceeding with that. We will also be exploring the MSA asset mapping tool to gain insights into your local market and support a more sustainable and equitable approach to downtown revitalization. This will help you all with your work. All right, so for the agenda today, we're going to do a little welcome and warm up, and then we're going to start getting into the meat of this presentation. And we're going to talk about mapping assets and framing strategy. We'll talk about the next 30 days, and then for a little optional Q&A and networking time, and then we'll adjourn by 12:30. So be here for a good hour and a half. So for the welcome and warm up today, we're going to do.
It's downstairs. The top is Mary Washington, and the bottom is Select.
Ew. Got to use that mute function. All right, but for the little roll call meeting for today, we're going to be doing a little bit of a breakout. So if somebody is to be visiting your Main Street area and only had 1 hour, where would you insist they go first? So if you're going to be responding to this, please throw it in the chat and be sure to tell us your community's name or where you are representing from, and we will add it to the board here. So think about it like this. If your mom or dad or a friend is coming into town, where are you first telling them to go in your downtown? Are they going to the Anchor Eatery within your town? Find out in the chat, or else I will be forced to call on some of you. All right, so from Zach Huddle out in Woodstock, our local history museums. A lot of things coming in. This is a really good one. All right, grab some food from Mac and Bob's. Go have a beer at Old Salem. Yes, love Mac and Bob, McAdoo's. Ellen Aders from Front Royal, the Chestnut Street Tavern, Pulaski on Main, Broussard's General Store, lemonade, ice cream, sandwiches, fun gifts, and Pulaski merchandise. All right. Michelle Wren from Portsmouth. If you have children, the Children's Museum. Love being able to take kids and have them explore different things. Another from Salem, Old Salem Brewing. Grab a beer, catch a band, and order Frank's Pizza delivery to your table. So that's the second time I think I've seen Old Salem come up. So clearly there's some magic going on there. Visit Occoquan, Sarah Berzio, browse our shops. Yes, get people to interact with all the retail that's going on within your your area, your main street. Chris Tillett, City of Portsmouth. Go to High Street Pizza. Cannot speak to that, but hopefully it is some delicious pizza. Another from Salem, VA. The Rocky Mount Welcome Center to get acquainted with the area. Sheen Creek Studio, Roanoke, Virginia. Curious to know what that is about. Portsmouth, Hidden Gem, Anderson, right. Historic churches, grab some cheesecake at Hello Sweeties. Yes, we love some cheesecake. Leesburg, the corner of King and Market Street, the historic part of town. Farmers market on Saturday. Yes, hopefully most of your main streets have some sort of farmers market or something like that going on there. It's always a great gathering to meet a whole bunch of different type of people. Lunch in the courtyard of Sidebar at Leesburg. I was just there a few weeks ago. Stained glass workshops. Take a walk down our main street, Rocky Mount. Yeah, that's probably the most simple thing most of the people can do is just solely take a walk and just see what appeals to them. From the Salem crew, I'd like to third Old Salem. LOL. Also check out Joe's Deli and Second on Main Street. Great antique shopping as well. Yes, I'm sure there's plenty of antique shops within your main street. Rocky Mount, enjoy a walk down Franklin Street, enjoying the Rocky Mount Farmers Market and various shops and restaurants, then catch a band at the Harvester. Shannon Aisley, Kathy Park for a River Turtles game or Dora Trail that connects to the River Trail. Town Green at the Historic Courthouse, Bowling Green. City of Roanoke, depending on this person, hike the Star Trail, Historic City Market, or Old Salem downtown. We got to do a little count of how many times Old Salem has been mentioned at this point. I feel like I'm missing out on something. It's been a long while since I've been there. Yeah. So yeah, just a couple of things that I'm observing here: retail, breweries, farmers markets, antique shops. It feels like a lot of things that are probably common in a lot of your Main Street districts. Yes, I'll need to go a little bit further west, Mandy. But y'all are like Salem and Roanoke are like sister localities. All right, enjoy some moonshine and music at Twin Creeks Distillery in Rocky Mount. Ooh, very interesting. Bowling Green, Gibson's Ice Cream, Mix House Coffee, drink some music. Yeah, everybody probably has some sort of a coffee shop there. Alrighty. Well, great. Well, I appreciate everybody kind of chiming in here. We'll, of course, have this all ready for digestion after the fact. But yeah, I think I now have my itinerary for site visits next time. So clearly, Old Salem, if anybody has gone or has not gone, please go. I'm sure everybody has some sort of coffee shop. As you all are visiting your main streets, I always try to make sure of a couple of things, of making sure that I have some sort of itinerary. Board game shop, coffee place, or a donut shop. Those are like my three things. I encourage everybody to also have that, some sort of itinerary whenever you visit a main street. So, yeah. So
All right.
let's proceed to the last 30. I'm talking
That
about what your
sounds
homework has
good.
been.
Yeah. And I tell you, this is interesting trying to get everybody sorted. It's
How are we looking on
it's
it,
not going
Kyle?
to be perfect. I'm doing okay. Just there are people's names that aren't in our directory. So I don't know how that's going to work. We're just going to do, like I said, I'm going to do the best we can with the situation.
Do it all
A reminder to everybody to update the directory on the Google Drive so that we have our task force groups, all of our contacts correct. All right, you want the next slide?
All right.
You got it. You can
Yes,
talk.
for
I'll
sure,
stop
for
talking.
sure.
Working through it.
For sure. So for the last 30 days, you all should have been working on your homework. So complete the highlighted sections in the brand and messaging guide found in your community folder. So make sure that you've taken a look at that and fill that out if you have not already. Hopefully you did, surely. And then, of course, being able to watch the strategy-driven programming, which is a little snippet of what Kyle did, I believe, a few years ago. So, and then next, these couple of things you should have been working with your PA. If not, we are in trouble. But hopefully you have been able to be set up in CAMS at this point, and being able to at least be set up to start receiving your monthly economic development data reports, which of course takes into account, business openings, business closures, moving, and investment into your downtown. And then finally, prepare for and schedule for the transformation strategy service with your PA, as that will be coming up soon and will be discussed during this huddle. So, but
Cool.
with all of that being said, I'm going to toss this to Kyle and I will be quiet for the remainder.
So I'm going to do before I move on, I'm going to do a quick request from some of the participants here. I need you to just put into chat the name of your community. So that would be, and I'm sorry, I haven't learned all this yet. You'd think I'd be up to date by now, having been 7 months into doing mobilizing. But Allison Wood, please put in chat the name of your community. Same with Emily Turk. Same with Molly Hunter. Same with Catherine Potter and Pragya Verma. Just put your name of your communities into the chat so I can make sure that you are sorted into the correct rooms. Appreciate that. And once our guests start, what's that?
Would it help if I called out the names, or?
Yeah, let's do this real quick before we move on. So who did I say?
Yeah.
Allison.
So, Allison Wood is with Leesburg.
Leesburg, room 5. Okay.
Did I hear Molly Hunter? That is Roanoke. Yeah.
Molly, so that's probably good. Unassigned, awesome, that's fine. Who else?
Christopher
Emily?
Shelton with Portsmouth. I have an Emily Turk with Salem.
Salem, good.
I'm here.
Thomas
That's room
Miller
4.
is with Salem, Virginia. And that's also Becca Marsh, if that means anything to you. Let's see, India Adams Jacobs is with the town of Bowling Green.
Well, that's okay. We're good. How about did Pragya?
Yes, with Leesburg.
Aria on here. There you are. Leesburg is room 5. Whew.
Anybody else?
Then, did you say Potter? Catherine Potter?
Potter. I do not see. Off the top, I do not see anybody.
I'm with Salem as well.
Okay.
Potter, Salem also? Okay, thank you. All right, I think we can move on and I'll see what I can do to make sure this is good to go. All right. Thank you all for your patience. I appreciate that. So let's get on with the content of the day. We've got 2 guests with us from Main Street America, and we're so happy to have them. It's always exciting to work with our mothership, the National Main Street Center, or Main Street America is the name of the network as it's branded. So today we have Sandra Tettleton. She's a New Orleans-based program officer for Main Street America with a PhD in urban studies. She offers over 15 years of experience in urban planning, community development, and equity-driven strategies. We also have Amy Miller, and she's based in Texas. And she's a 20-plus year career in downtown development and community revitalization. And Amy holds a bachelor's and a master's of public administration from the University of North Texas. And Amy is an avid hiker and an avid community champion. And Chandra, well, she's a believer in breathing. We maybe learn a little bit more about that. I probably could use a little of that right now, as a matter of fact, as I'm getting everybody sorted. So I'm going to hand it off to you two now.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me okay? All right. I see thumbs up and nods. So thank you, Cal, for the great introduction. And since you started us off with the comment on breath work, just everyone take a deep inhale, exhale, one more inhale, exhale, push it away. So if you're in a breakout group that makes sense to Cal only, just remember to breathe and you will be okay. Because really today, we're just really trying to accomplish a few things, and we can do that. We're going to go over just a brief MSA overview or Main Street America overview, do a highlight reel of the Main Street America transformational strategy, but we will focus on that strategy work for next month's huddle. So you'll get to see us again, yay. Amy will have a new breath exercise, yay. And we really want you to focus today on asset mapping and think of it as a real understanding of your community through a creative lens. So you're doing a practical guide to understanding your local market in a way that supports your residents, your visitors alike, and it's a more sustainable way to map out your approach to revitalizing downtown. So we'll go through just the welcome, the purpose, the MSA approach, the overview of transformational strategies, light work on defining your boundaries. Want to specify that you don't have to be exact for your boundaries when you're looking at your asset mapping. And then we'll do a group breakout section and then follow up with any Q&A and wrap up. And overall, we have core values that lead Main Street America. And what we stand for is community-driven, collaboration first, partnership, equitable and inclusive, resilient and future-focused, community preservation-based. But understanding preservation is just not the building edifice, but the people and the history and the stories as well. And we are practicing supporting small for greater impact. To ground our work, we're going to revisit the why behind it. So the mission of Main Street America is to lead a movement committed to strengthening communities through preservation-based economic development. But the vision for it all is that everyone has access to an inclusive and resilient Main Street. This is a thriving economy model, and the character is rich, very unique to your district and welcoming. And we're looking at a network of 46 and counting, 48 and maybe a plus in a lovely tropical area soon, fingers crossed. And it's not just at the national level, at the state level, it's at the county and it's at the city level. And you have your coordinating programs that are all united and committed to fostering strong local economies and enhancing your district's distinct characteristics. Speaking earlier, I talked about the vision of Main Street America, but this is just it plainly. Our mission is the work that we're leading with, the purpose of our organization. So Main Street America leads a collaborative movement with partners and grassroots leaders that advances shared prosperity, creates resilient economies, and improves quality of life through a place-based economic development and community preservation model. And this is modeled throughout the downtowns and neighborhood commercial districts within the 48 plus states and counting within the country. Our vision is our aspiration for the future. So again, we will hear a lot of words about resilient, everyone. This vision is that everyone has access to an inclusive and resilient Main Street, a place that has a thriving local economy, is distinctive and rich in character, and it has features that are welcoming to the tourists from Amsterdam to the local Girl Scout troop down the street. We're doing this, and this is really much the heartbeat of the framework and of the slide section in the introduction. The Main Street approach is a comprehensive model for economic development and community transformation. So we use this 4 points approach, but really this is the nexus of it. You all are the nexus. It starts with local revitalization at the community and the local program level. Then we have the state coordinating program. Virginia has a great setup for you all for step-to-step support through technical assistance, webinars as such today, as well as feedback sessions, check-ins, and really we at the national level are like the hug around it all. And we also provide the TA, the resources, but understand that this is locally powered through community-driven revitalization. And we're all working collectively for these models of best practices, but also honestly, lessons learned. Mary Means, shout out to our, if anyone was able to capture the 2-hour or so lunch and learn session during our Philly conference this spring. It feels like it was last spring, but it was this spring. She really talked about and coined these 4 points, and you can call it something else. You may call it something else. I just left Maryland and they have a 5th pillar or a 5th point, and others may, but this is just the core nexus. You have the 4 points, and this is the Main Street approach to doing the work through the lens. So you have in the blue your economic vitality. This is about the money and the market. It means building a diverse economic base. You're catalyzing on smart growth and new investment, but you're also cultivating an ecosystem for your entrepreneurs. In the green, you have the design. This covers the look, the feel. It is about creating an inclusive, inviting atmosphere. It's celebrating your unique characteristics, that artwork, that art deco, that period, that weird sculpture that somehow made it to the park over 100 years and is still there. But that's the ability to foster unique stories. And it's fostering public spaces that are accessible to all when you're thinking about your design. You also have your promotion, which is in orange. And this is going back to that unique sculpture that I'm thinking about that I saw in my neighborhood yesterday. You can use that to your benefit. This is your marketing, your storytelling. It includes marketing your district by defining your assets and communicating the unique features, such as that sculpture that I can't quite figure out. But I can't quite figure it out because I don't have that compelling story. So I need someone to give me that compelling story so I have a buy-in. But it also helps you to have a compelling story to buy into the community, but also shop and buy local and experience the community through your promotional work. And last but not least, you have the organization in yellow. And this is really the engine that drives it all. It is you all. It is your board. It is the structure. So you're building a strong leadership and organizational capacity to ensure you have great volunteers, community engagement, great partners, cross volunteers, and support throughout all of your sectors of your work. As you're looking at these 4 points, and as we go through the exercises today, also be mindful of this when you go into your breakout room. I want you to keep the 4 points at the back of your mind, but also in the front. Every asset we identify as a tool can be used to advance the work in more or one of these 4 points. So just think about it through that lens as well. Our Main Street approach is really twofold. You have the strategic long-term, the sustainable district transformation. Then you also have the programmatic work that is really powering the revitalization, and you have it nestled within that 4-point approach. But mainly understand within this work that small amounts helping you grow will also create big differences. So we're doing incremental steps to create big differences. That goes back to the vision that I spoke of earlier. And we really want you all to be engaged, to be involved, to be invested, and work together to really help this transformation take place. I know it's easier said than done, but in a utopian state, that is what's happening. But you're gonna continue to do the work, and it's gonna be in this cyclical pattern. So you're really gonna look at the community vision for the district. You're gonna lean into the market and the understanding of your community, the market, the places, the spaces, what is happening. And then you're gonna do the work through your work plans, through your strategies, those transformational components. But you're leaning in with that 4-point approach always. And then you're able to see your work through your metrics, your reinvestment stats. You're able to see the outcome and the impact. Now my colleague Amy will segue or do a highlight reel of transformational strategies.
Excellent. Thanks, Chandra. I love this analogy that it's a highlight reel for transformation strategies. That's excellent. So I've got about 5 minutes, and truly, we're going to do an overview because you guys get to spend all of your class in August on transformation strategies. So what we're doing here is leaning into the strategic aspect of the previous slide that Chandra shared. Transformation strategies are intended to be focused efforts over the next 3 to 5 years that will move the needle forward, that you'll be able to see tangible results in your downtown districts. Now, how do we develop these? There's 2 different kinds, consumer-based and product-based. We'll talk about in a minute. But it's very data-driven, the effort of putting these strategies together. And so on your part, you guys have heard that we're going to be doing community surveys, and we'll be coming and visiting where we'll facilitate focus groups with you. You're going to give us tours of your downtowns so that we can see on the ground what some of the assets might be. And we bring you a lot of data. So we look at demographic data, we look at Esri and Placer AI data. So there you're looking at the overall geography of the people who live in and near your community within the various drive times. And you guys are all focusing in on what drive times are going to be right for you. But then you have the Placer AI data, which is looking at the people who actually make it into the district and are there for at least 10 minutes. And we have a lot of information that we glean from that that cell phone file. It's actually really fascinating in terms of being able to see where are people before they come downtown, where are they going after they leave downtown, how long are they staying, et cetera. So we use all that data to work with you to develop these strategies. You typically have 2 for a community, and if they are consumer-based, that's a definable group that has unmet capacity. And if they're product-based, that is something that's looking at an existing cluster or the potential cultivation of a cluster. And so when we look more specifically, and I'm sorry, I'm not telling Kyle to advance. So Kyle, could you click ahead?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Product-based strategies. Now, these are just examples, and it's not comprehensive by any means, but to give some ideas about what a product-based strategy might look like. Let's look at food production. So perhaps your community has a lot of farm to table happening in the area, and you've got some unique food-based businesses downtown, maybe folks who are doing added value food processing. It may be that there's an opportunity to further develop that asset into a focused strategy where you are then developing food production from a business development perspective downtown, but using all 4 points in your strategic plan to implement that strategy. If we look at the consumer-based strategies, which I think is the next slide, Kyle.
Yeah, working on.
Okay, no, that's fine. And so with consumer-based strategies, this is where we're looking at groups of people. And so perhaps your community has a large demographic group. Again, these are just examples, but let's look at the one for perhaps you're a university town. And maybe there is an opportunity to really target college students, the university staff, the alumni, the things that happen throughout a year, then in that town to gown connection that becomes a specific strategy for you. That again, we look at all 4 points for how it can be implemented over that longer, not terribly long, only 3 to 5 years, but over that more than a year. It's more than just a work plan, 1 year aspect of how these can be implemented. Perhaps the family-friendly young families opportunity. So if your demographics show that you're a really young community with a large opportunity related to young families, then it might make sense for downtown that's a very loud timer, but there's my 5 minutes, for the downtown to focus on that consumer group of young families as a targeted area. So on my part, that's a quick overview of how we develop the strategies, what types of strategies there are. And I will take this moment. I think you get reminded at the end as well, but you guys are doing a great job filling in that Google file. We would just encourage everyone to make that a priority next week to get all your survey information submitted, finalize the name of your program that we're going to use in the survey, and start loading up your existing plans and documents. That's it for me.
Thank you, Amy. So sounds like more fun next month, but today I hope you have your coloring books, your crayons, your markers, your pens and paper, because we are going to focus on the asset mapping aspect, because it is a key component for your Main Street, and it's enabling you to build a culture and a pipeline that brings people, places, as well as things together. And you're building upon the space that hopefully has a fortified sense of place. And each member of the community has a commitment to the work. And there's a trajectory for that work as well, if you have that built sense of ownership and place in your downtown. So you can start with a volunteer to then hopefully lifelong supporters. And the way that pivot happens is when you're first starting with what we want to achieve. So that's just your hopes, your thoughts, your goals, and just a really general thought process, or just people coming together at a coffee shop and saying we need something in our Main Street. And then you're going to the how we make it happen. So before we can build a strategy or create effective work plans and lean into the 4 points and the transformational strategy, we have to do one thing first. And it is identify your strengths, the things that you love and why you want to bring more people to the community. And we're doing that today through a whole assets analysis. So within this Main Street 4 points and whole assets analysis, this is really a foundational step. Asset mapping is happy. So think happy thoughts. It's just processing. You do this maybe when you take your child to daycare, when you're lining out your items for the week for your clothes, maybe if you're me, and you're color coordinating your greens and your pinks and your purples, but you're really looking at all of the good things that already exist in your community. And you're thinking about it through the 4 points and the buckets. And you're really leaning in to figure out what you have to put into those buckets to reach that goal. So it's not what you want, but you really have a lot of these resources already. And this process ensures that the strategies are authentic, sustainable, and truly community driven. And there are so many ways to think about assets. I just talked about clothes. Maybe that's not your zhuzh, but you can also look at asset mapping through individuals. And this is really focusing on the skills, the talents, the knowledge, and experience of individuals within your community. This is great where you're looking for your workforce, your volunteers, or even building up your board. You can do this in a list. You can do this in storytelling, interviews, or traditional asset mapping format. You also have institutional or organizational asset mapping. And so this is really leaning into the schools, the nonprofits, the businesses and faith groups, the Rotary clubs in your community. And your goal is to understand the roles as they play into the community and how they can be mobilized, what you're already doing for a collective impact. You also have your physical, and this is kind of your spatial asset mapping. And this is the tangible, the things that you can touch, your buildings, your parks, your public spaces, the infrastructure. Sometimes people do this through GIS mapping, through Excel spreadsheets, or even Main Street America's Booms tracker. You can also just write it down. You also have the social or the cultural asset mapping. And this is focusing on your artists, your traditions, those things that make your area unique, the people, the hugs that I talked about earlier. And you can use this for creative placemaking activities, cultural planning, or even within your strategic development of your community. We often talk about EV or economic asset mapping. And this is really pulling in your economic drivers, the local businesses, your workforce skills, the entrepreneurs. And this really looks at how you're able to develop an economic strategy for long-term success of your Main Street district. Sometimes social is not necessarily cultural. Social can also be your relationship. So you're looking at a relationship or social mapping, and you're looking at the individuals and organization, but the power dynamics, the influence of them all. You're looking at this for your board, to how you solicit support and for your stakeholders. And that's really a way that you can kind of garner that social map. You also have your environmental or that built. And so we talk about natural resources such as the water, but you're also looking at your green infrastructure as a whole or your canopies in the sky to really tell the story, and also links to environmental sustainability for your community. I also threw in a bucket that we'll see a little bit later in the slides. And it's like ABCD. So it really needs to be ABCD, EFG, like all of it, because it's really looking at all of the asset map examples that I just provided and putting them together to really look at how you're able to grow from the ground up within your community. Cal, I know I had a whole bunch in there, but I just want to give people an understanding. There's no wrong way, there's no wrong lens, and these are just some examples. And you may be asking, why do I have to do this? And still not understanding what the asset mapping is. But again, it is an enjoyable process. Everybody say enjoyable. Like, this is enjoyable. This is what you're gonna say. The key word today is enjoyable. And you're gonna breathe when you take this back to your district and to your group. And you're doing this so you can get a good inventory, so you can understand the value, not just what you see in the community, but what others hold as most valuable. And this also talks to the why people want to come to your community. And you're going to use this through the lens of the 4 points approach. I know I've talked a little bit. I want to just hear from you all via chat. And Keldrick, Amy, Cal, I don't know who wants to monitor it, but just in general, what is your greatest asset? And for collective purposes, this is going to be G-rated, your greatest asset. Just want to preface that.
I'm saying community, the people, those who are in the downtown, those who surround it, those are in leadership positions. Yeah. But then somebody has to say the mountains, because you've got some natural assets that are certainly part of your character and your heritage.
Maybe the next slide will help prompt a little bit better. The why bother. The main benefit of asset mapping is to get a common view of what is important. To Cal, it's the mountains. To Keldrick, it's the donuts. To some, I heard it is the infamous pizza shop. And so this is a lot of food. I have not eaten lunch yet, so maybe that is what I'm leaning into as well. And this is really helping you to not just affirm the values of the community and for what you like to see, but also it helps with your strategic planning, your corridor revitalization that leads to that community development. It also helps with the organization development, and it helps you to kind of map out your boundaries of your district and what that looks like. And note that no district is going to be the same, even if you all share mountains. That is, or part of a mountain, a beltway, or a park. No district is the same. So hopefully that helps, because I have another question. So I know mountains was listed, so that's like a natural asset. But in the chat, what do you all believe is the greatest community asset within your Main Street? And again, you can use rough boundaries when we talk about Main Street or your district.
Got like the waterfront and historic buildings, the maritime routes in Portsmouth. Gazebos, so some built assets, historic downtown buildings. There's an asset about proximity to Washington, D.C. Roanoke College, so some institutions. Bikeway infrastructure.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Or no.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep them coming because you may be able to use the chat as a cheat sheet. So just to reference the chat, you can keep them coming in. And today I went through a laundry list earlier in slide 22 maybe of the different approaches, but I'll just go over 3 general approaches for asset mapping that you can take back to your district. And these approaches are often used when you have a group that has been together for 50 years, 5 seconds, 5 months, 5 years. And it's the whole assets approach, the storytelling approach, and the heritage approach. The whole asset approach is, again, one of the most comprehensive methods, and it's looking at everything from the natural to the economic. Then you have the storytelling approach, that is the method that uncovers the history, the human capacity of a place. It is finding the hidden assets, that bikeability that may be forgotten, or stories that have a capacity to be told, but no one has informed you about it. And then you have the heritage approach that focuses on the physical assets, and that's the natural and the built. And this is what makes the community special. So when people talk about the mountains or the rivers, the lakes, that's really what encompasses in that space. And again, the honorable mention, which is, I call it ABCDEFGHIJK, is the ABCD community-based mapping, because it's taking a lot of that, of what I just said, and putting it all together, because it's presenting all of these diverse categories of your associations, your Rotary clubs, your religious groups, your education, your PTAs, and how you encounter them in community life, and creating a portrait of your community that showcases how you live, how you serve. And this is creating kind of a baseline of an extent of what you're trying to do to really build your community efforts. But you can start with this done in the format of the whole assets approach. And like I stated before, the whole assets approach is more comprehensive, and it is a little bit longer of a process. And it may take a little bit longer, but you're looking at this approach and you're looking at the assets near or within your commercial district, and you're factoring in social, the economic, the service to really ignite the community. If you do not want to go so in depth immediately, you can go into the storytelling approach. You can really lean into your griots. I'm pretty sure they have this somewhere in their papers, pins, the programs from 1970 that they're able to pull out and inform you. And this approach really talks about the social history of the community, and it identifies those assets, that those hidden stories that may have been dormant, that you can create a character and talk about your community. And it also is empowering your human capacity, because it's really celebrating those who have done the work over time, who have focused on the mission, even if your district did not exist formally, and their energy and their heart and soul went into a lot of support for the community. So you can capture those stories as well. The third, which kind of ties into capturing the stories of your griot, your local storyteller, your favorite person at the coffee shop that is there all day, is the heritage approach. And you can look at the natural and the built that make the place special, but the natural and built don't just have to be the lakes, the waters, the streams. Again, hunger and coffee, or food and coffee, my favorite 2 things. So I'm going to lean into coffee shop again. That griot at that coffee shop can help you with that heritage approach, because you're highlighting those features within your work. So you're looking at the cultural resources, and then you're going out, and then you're able to kind of map out your community orgs, your cultural heritage, your natural, your creative, and you're doing it through the lens of that heritage approach. Great news, you will not be doing all of that today. But what you will be doing today is just getting into 5 rooms of colleagues and your families from in the area in the Virginia Main Street. And you're going to break out into 5 asset types. So you have natural, built, social, economic, and service. And then you're going to glean and come back to us via chat within the next 10 to 15 minutes and highlight some key takeaways. But I have one more cheat sheet before we go into the breakout. So if you're in natural assets, you're discussing your rivers, your views, the parks, but you can align that with the 4-point strategy. So you can look into the design and promotion. How does the beauty and the physical character of your downtown really pull people in and capture tourists and residents alike? For your built assets, you're talking about your buildings, your streetscapes. You're also talking about your public spaces. But this falls into design, but you don't have to just say, oh, this is a beautiful building built in 1950 and the historic spaces. You also don't have to talk about the fact that it is the only building in your main street. You can really look at including things around that building, that space. So things like parking, which is always possibly, Amy, going to come up in our survey of things that people need more of or need less of. And you can even talk about broadband where you're thinking about the design of your built assets. And this also helps support your economic vitality if you have strong sense of ability to shore up your community for those to come. You also have social assets, so your traditions, your festivals. I'm in New Orleans. I feel like it's festival season all year round. There's Tales of the Cocktails this weekend. And this is really bringing people throughout to really highlight not just the spirits and the traditions within New Orleans, but also it's recognized worldwide. And this helps to promote and create an experience for not just the residents, the tourists, but the industry here. You also have organization that can be roped into the social asset. So your social networks helps you build engagement. We also have EV, or economic assets, and that really ties into what anchors your businesses. You can look at that, like what are those assets that really are the anchors that support the local industries of your community? And also think about it, how do you promote that even more? I heard the person that was not on mute talking about they don't want to favor one business over the other. So you're really mapping that out when you're thinking about your economic assets. And then you have service assets. So these are your core drivers that are going to always have people going to them. Your hospitals, your clinics, your schools. These are your workforce pillars. And how do you lean into that for your economic vitality? And also, how do you support those through the organization lens? Because these institutions, for a lot of communities, are often some of the most powerful partners. A lot to think about, a lot to take away, no pressure, just inhale, exhale. You may do that a few more times as Kyle breaks you all out into breakout groups. And we'll see you in a few minutes.
Yeah. Thank you, Chandra. Yeah, and some of you might have the asset map that I emailed this morning. If you printed it out, you can doodle on that and fill it in for your brainstorm. But each of your communities will be broken out to discuss a specific asset. So don't worry about hitting them all at this point. You're just going to be talking about one specific asset in your breakout group. So any questions? And like I said, I did my best to get everybody into the right rooms. If you don't end up in the right one, it's okay. Participate the best that you can. Think about your community and that particular asset. You will ultimately be bringing that back to your group to complete the assignment. So, all right, let's do this. I don't think we did so bad.
Okay.
Not bad at all. I think the majority of the folks here are Roanoke, except for staff. We do have a few. Chris Shelton should be in Portsmouth. Same with Sarah and Pulaski. For some reason, they're grayed out, and it wouldn't let them move. And John, you're with Leesburg, aren't you? Yeah.
Correct.
So we'll do
This
the
is
best
Chris
we can.
Shelton. I'm with Portsmouth.
Yeah, yeah. So our assignment, I know you, well, no, you should be able to see ours, is to talk about social assets. Being in the main room, you can still see the slide, but so what we're going to talk about now is what are the social traditions, gathering places, or community groups that create strong connections in your town, And how do they show up in your downtown experience? So examples, festivals, service clubs, markets, coffee shops, art walks, things like that. We're primarily talking about Roanoke because this is their group, but certainly don't want to leave out the other folks who have been relegated to the main room. I'll give you an opportunity to talk. But Mandy, Molly, you guys, what comes to mind in thinking about your neighborhood commercial district that you'll be focusing on?
Mandy,
So,
which one should we talk about?
we're gonna start our focus with 11th Street. So
Okay, that's
by
what I've
Humble
been writing down.
Hustle. Yeah. Okay.
The Hope Center immediately comes to mind. As like a community group, Darlene Lewis with the Hope Center is she's definitely a pillar. I think also Mike Hamler and then Xavier. Those are kind of the three people in that area that are doing it.
So these are particular leaders that you're talking about, Molly?
Yeah.
They are business owners, nonprofit leaders, and they do a lot with the community. And they have regular events, gatherings, block parties. Yeah.
Gatherers, conveners.
Yes, very
Yes.
much so.
Like that
Yeah.
word better.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna mess it up. Okay. Anything else as far as are there any particular events in that area yet? Any traditions connected to their history?
The block
Um,
parties.
Yeah,
Block
block
parties?
parties.
They
Yeah,
have
have-
community conversations. Yeah. Funerals,
Yep.
sadly. Hamlers. It is a type of gathering with a lot of people, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
funerals, one of
Really
those
is.
business leaders. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Funerals?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike
There's a
Hamler.
funeral home right there. Very, very well respected member of the community owns that business.
Yeah. He also has a nonprofit and is a like real estate developer, small scale. Great guy. I'm having
Okay.
coffee with him Tuesday. But yeah, he has the funeral home. So it's just another type of community gathering. It
is. It
It
is.
is. Yeah.
And it can be celebratory,
Mhm.
who knows? But that's an interesting one to include. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about
Um,
third spaces within your district? Thinking about those places where people do gather. Are there any retail establishments like coffee shops that kind of fill that space?
Not yet.
Not yet.
So Xavier's Place, the collective is a co-working space where they hold the community conversations. He has a lot of events there.
That's
A lot
fun.
of community groups can meet there, but here's an interesting one. So there kind of aren't a lot of third spaces there yet, but we are working with Xavier on an August block party, and there's that empty lot on that block. It's like all fenced in. There's like 4 tractor trailers parked in there, and they just put this like black cover on the fence, but you can still see through it.
Yeah.
But he is the owner of that space, is going to let Xavier use it for this block party, and they're gonna have a rodeo theme and have like pony rides and a mechanical bull. So it's kind of like a pop-up
Okay.
third space. It's gonna be really fun.
Okay.
That's cool.
Cool.
So yeah. And this guy with the empty lot, the more we can partner with him on things and build that relationship,
Mhm.
the more progress we can make. So I'm excited about it. It's good
Yeah.
stuff.
Absolutely.
Good. Well, the other communities that ended up in the main room, what kind of thoughts come to mind? So John, and with Leesburg.
Yeah, I mean, what immediately came to mind for me was our Flower and Garden Festival, and that's a huge festival that draws people from all over the Mid-Atlantic region every spring.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say hi, Robin. I saw you pop in.
Hey there. Sorry I'm a little late. I just had some other meetings this morning.
All good. Glad you could
That's
join
never
us.
that's never happened to me. I don't know what you're talking about. Unexpected meetings. What?
Sarah Pulaski, are there any ideas that come to mind as far as your social assets? Unmute.
Now, we have a music and merchants festival where we shut down Main Street and we bring out a band, and all the businesses change their hours for the weekend, and then we have vendors out on the street. We have the courthouse lot. We turn it into like a full kid zone. It's probably our biggest event, and it's when we get a little bit of everybody. Like demographically, we hit the people that like to come out and drink and listen to the band, the people that like to just come shop and eat, the people that bring their families out with the kid zone. So it's the one event that we kind of hit for the entire town.
Mm-hmm. So that's one event throughout the year. Are there any particular spaces that could be activated all year long for these kind of social connections, these third spaces? Is the courthouse lot, does that kind of suit that kind of space, or is there a coffee shop or bar restaurant that acts in that capacity?
Potentially, we do have two newer restaurants. One just got their ABC license and has started serving mixed drinks and stuff. So there is the potential for it to grow into a year-round type event.
Okay. Well, I'm thinking of those assets that help draw people in throughout the year, not just Music and Merchants Festival, but any of your assets within the district that are used year round for gathering. So that could be a coffee shop, that could be a restaurant, any social organizations that do that.
Well, we have the Fine Arts Center, and they have
Okay.
First Friday, where they have a social gathering the first Friday of every month. And it's always something different. Sometimes it's music, sometimes it's music and wine, sometimes it's like a paint and wine thing.
Mhm.
And then I think Broussard's also, theirs is only seasonal, but they have monthly music where they bring people in to their restaurant store.
Okay, so
and it,
Broussard's?
yes,
Did I do that right?
BRO, close enough.
Yeah, close enough. I'm going to leave it at that. Yeah, so that's good. Just kind of challenging your idea of what those kind of social assets are. And we're really looking at what's going to draw people together, bring people into the community, create those strong connections. So, think outside of the box a little bit. It doesn't have to necessarily be a physical space. It could be a group that gathers regularly. Some organization that is connected to, well connected to the community. So these are good. Well, it's 12 o'clock, and I think this is probably a good time to break out. I'm going to just let everybody know. Well, actually, I'm just going to close the rooms because we need to move forward.
That's harsh.
Harsh, isn't it?
Mid-sentence, it is.
Yeah.
Do what you
Well,
gotta
they'll get
do.
a minute. They get a little bit of a notice.
You were done.
I know that was you wanted to keep going. That probably was a little bit painful, mid-sentence, cutting it out. We want to stay on top of our time here and honor each of you and your schedules. So thank you guys. Well, at this point, I'm going to hand it back to Chandra and Amy to talk with you guys a little bit about the observations.
So we can make this as painless as possible, hopefully. So we talked about in the beginning an asset, a G-rated asset that you held high in high regard. Then we finished with an asset for Main Street America in the beginning. But now that you have a little bit more of an understanding under the asset type that you all were broken out to, kind of, can you talk to us in the chat about one that you identified as a key asset, and also kind of why, the impact, the benefit behind it as well. I was in the main room, so thank you, Roanoke, for being the test case. And I think Roanoke, there's somebody that wants to say something, because this actually is an example that I really thought was a great understanding of the asset and the gathering spaces, was a funeral home. And for some, it did not resonate, but it really, living in New Orleans, funerals, second lines, processionals are true third places, third spaces that have more than the second line. It gathers so many people, and it's a strength because it really talks about the heritage and leans into the cultural impact of a time previously when people were not able to pay for their burial, and they had a benevolent association that helped them with their burial costs, and the community came around it. And really, when I heard that the funeral home director was a developer and owned a nonprofit, that really leaned into what a person in the community can do outside of their quote unquote business type. And maybe everyone doesn't want to gather at the funeral home, but I have always had the best baked chicken after a service. And also, the food is a gathering third place or second place for many, and you're able to really talk about conversations. Honestly, I'm gonna stop talking now, Kyle, but I remember at my grandfather's funeral, it actually was a 3-day festivity. And by the third day, our family decided to start our family reunions, because it felt like a mini family reunion from that. So we hadn't had a family reunion in almost 10 years. So it really can re-engage the community and the people and the residents and tourists alike.
Don't see a lot of activity in the chat, so perhaps we can, oh, here we go. Way to go, Leesburg. Leesburg is sharing their court system, the formation of the town, the history of that, job creation, leading to businesses locating in town, and now government offices for both the county and the town. But then the courthouse is this very public place for the whole community, because it's hosting events on the lawn, and it's a place to gather and hang out, as well as a place to conduct really formal business. So yeah, I would say the court system and the courthouse public space, because that certainly is going to vary from community to community, but it's a wonderful thing when you are wandering around a downtown county seat on a Sunday afternoon and that courthouse lawn is filled with folks having picnics and hanging out with their dogs and their kids. And let's see, we've got Susan in Rocky Mount. She is sharing a hospital and 4 funeral homes as social assets. For that is Rocky Mount.
Looks like Kelvin's prompting you guys, Salem.
Oh, Molly is sharing that Roanoke is the place to go for your funeral.
Oh.
That's
I
excellent.
took this call in a random direction. Tommy, you guys got a nice Okies in Salem.
So we're waiting to hear from Salem, and I know we have a couple other communities that had some time to visit. There, remember, as Chandra said, there's no wrong answer to all of this. It's a creative, thoughtful process. So I'll try to say Occoquan. Did I get it right?
Yeah.
Okay. Natural assets. They're leaning into the river. They've got a footbridge. So this creates a really peaceful tree-filled water view area in a larger DC suburban community. Certainly natural assets you wouldn't necessarily expect in a place that is a suburb of huge metro. Chandra, you want to catch Old Town?
Sure, it's focused on natural assets. So the chief among them is the Elizabeth River, a source of commerce, tourism attractions, the modes of transportation, recreation, wildlife exploration, and she is beautiful as well. Thanks, Liz.
Excellent.
Kelvin, do you have a prompt for Salem? I mean, Keldrick, do you have a prompt for
Yeah. Am I here? Why don't I find out where Salem is real quick? I'm going to call on them specifically. Thomas, I would love to hear from Salem.
We can look at a few of those. So, I mean,
Or
and-
yeah, we can
and,
also
and look at what happened with the economic assets conversation.
Yes, we have quite the amount of economic assets, and we were also thinking about things that were going on in the larger area from Salem as well. So they have a civic center that is nearby where there's also a football stadium, fairgrounds, and a civic center. So I think that wasn't too far, so it would bring some things in town. But I would love to hear this directly from Salem.
I guess I'll speak. Yeah, I think Roanoke College. Well, there's some overlap because I like Leesburg had both the county and town courthouse. We are similar. We have both the county and the city courthouse in our downtown. But I think really Roanoke College events taking place in the city and ancillary events in nearby are I think are two key big things to highlight for Salem.
Yeah, and as far as economic assets, it's great to see that the farmers market is part of that. You know, being part of that continuum of business startups and using that asset to fill storefronts one day. That's a good one.
We have a few more in the chat, and Salem Fair also Mandy highlighted.
Okay.
But also Ellen from Front Royal says for the built assets, the village common, the gazebos, the green space, the farmers markets and concerts, the visitor center and the pavilion. Zach from Woodstock talks about the existing restaurants centered around common theme, funeral homes, and now courthouses. It's centered around the court square, open space with supporting parking, art, and other creative areas for social spaces. And then we have Missy of Rocky Mount, the two key festivals, Come Home to Franklin County Christmas and Rock Mount Fest. Both events bring in the community, families, tourists, and also the events bring in 10,000 plus people to the area between September and December. And then I have Shannon speaking to the courthouse again, and it's the most recognized landmark of the Main Street. The historic theater also has a big presence, and they hope that the new designated marketplace structure will soon be a focus of the Main Street. They received, congrats, an AFID grant for the project, which is along their underutilized creek that runs through town. That's really cool. That is gaining more attention to new developers.
Isn't that interesting how the courthouse shows up in each one of these different categories in some ways? I mean, maybe not the natural assets, but you know, it does become that social connection. It's a historic building, a key character in downtown. It sometimes speaks to the economic assets and that the number of people that are employed by the court system in downtown. There's a workforce. So but really interesting. Well, guys, it is 10 after. And you all will get these slides. So if you want to reflect a little bit, if you need a little brainstorm, you need a little bit of something to help you kind of, you know, push your brain a little bit, you'll be able to refer back to these brainstorms and these breakout conversations and see what other people put down for theirs. If you need a little bit more of an idea of what each of your categories look like. So thank you all for doing that. This is some really good conversation. So as we start to move towards closing out, so today, hopefully we did help you to prepare for the transformation strategy technical assistance. So really understanding, how to develop these community-informed, market-based strategy to guide and strengthen local revitalization efforts. And while we didn't show any slides about the asset mapping tool, you understand the different categories of assets that you will be able to inventory for your homework. So with that, Chandra or Amy, if you guys will talk a little bit about that asset mapping tool homework. This is what
Sure.
needs to be done in the next 30. Yeah.
Sure. So this is the lovely asset map exercise that you will find in the link for the asset mapping tool kit that Main Street America utilizes for communities throughout the network to support. And you have somewhat of a cheat sheet because Virginia has done this before. So some of the references in the link later on will also point to that, as well as your thoughtful brainstorming within today's exercise. So this is really jotting it down step by step, but you can really start with just a piece of paper in a circle and say, this is my funeral home, this is my courthouse, and then go from there. And then you can look at how that built environment is placed, the water, the streams underneath the creek. You can start to fill it in a little bit more as the great example here that you have, and really lean into your community's natural resources, into its built resources, the social aspects, the people. Don't forget my main man at the coffee shop, or at the funeral home, or at the third space that is a rodeo, and lean into that when you're talking about even your services, because you may have your farmers market that came up and your places that are also a service space that's not just a school or a hospital. So you can list that, and then the mountains that we talked about earlier within your natural. And then I think I did two Rotary shout outs. So here's the third. So shout out to the Rotary Club. Those are your social groups that you can also place in here as well. Your Girl Scouts, all of that, your church, your faith base, your organizations, the ones that people have in their home. They're a third place or gathering spot. Someone else's house is their third place, or an actual third space that really talks about the social, and they can also funnel into the economic if they're a building or a space or a festival that has over 10,000 people to come.
Awesome. Thank you, Chandra. So let you know that asset mapping tool and the guide that comes along with it is in the folder for this month within the lessons folder. So for July, you'll find all that stuff in there. So also continue to meet with your PA to get all the information together for your transformation strategy service. So that's that survey, support the survey creation. So there was some information that we gathered filling in for Main Street America to let them know, hey, what is the name of the organization that's sponsoring this? What's the name of the district? Etc. That information needs to be collected by early next week so that we can pass that off to them, and they can go ahead and get these surveys created. We also have a sample survey that we'll share with you so that you can look at, okay, what are the kinds of questions they're going to be asking, and how is this information that I'm providing going to be used in this survey tool. Also, we're going to start collecting the coordinating, the logistics for coordinating the fall visits. And that is for when Amy and Chandra come to your communities and we experience the focus groups and hear from your community partners about downtown. And just keep in mind also that the asset mapping tool, you'll definitely want to finish, because that is one of the documents that you'll supply to Main Street America to help them understand what you have to work with as far as your transformation strategy may go.
Kyle?
Yeah.
Just one overall comment for both the asset mapping and the transformation strategies. Main Street is not individual work. Main Street is group work. It is absolutely teamwork. And for both of these, we hope that you are gathering your partners, your board members, your volunteers, really bring folks in to work with you. That's the point of the focus groups during the transformation strategy workshops. And certainly with asset mapping, you want to have lots of brain cells helping you with both of these aspects.
Absolutely. Thank you, Amy. And Amy and Chandra is going they're working on their schedules now. So hopefully by mid-August, we'll be able to tell you the dates for their visits. And then we can really get to work on inviting your stakeholders to those focus groups. So lots to do even outside of your homework assignment. This stuff is important too. Remember to keep up with your monthly reporting. So your first report will be in mid August also. And then really important, we have our fall rev up coming up. That's going to be focusing on design and understanding the tools to help influence making some improvements within your downtown as far as your built and your physical environment goes. So register for the fall rev up. So it'll be in Culpeper on the 16th of September, Tazewell on the 17th of September, and Clarksville on the 19th. So that Friday. You guys have seen that. There are a few more. If you want to dig deeper, remember I always refer to this as sort of the nerdy slide here. If you really want to learn more and you've got some extra time, these are some great resources to support the lessons from today. So you can take a look at those too. So at this point, it's already a little bit after 12:15, and those who need to split, really our required time together is over, and the next 15 minutes is optional. Please, now's the time to talk and get some clarification. Hear some success stories, whatever you want to do to utilize this time together. So those who want to leave, you can go. Bye. Thanks so much. And those who want to talk, raise your hand and let's chat.
Thank you all. See you all next month.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Yeah.
This is Tommy from Salem. Just curious, you might have mentioned it and all that, but the asset mapping, when will that be uploaded to the Google Drive? I don't see it there now.
I'll do it right after. So I usually
Okay.
wait until immediately after the lesson. It probably won't happen this afternoon because we have some other stuff going on, but by tomorrow morning, you'll get that. And I'll also follow up with a email letting everybody know when that stuff is in the folder and ready to go.
And then similarly for Salem, so the days that you guys have for the rev ups, those are during the VITA conference.
Okay.
Some of those are.
Some of those are. So just like I don't know if you guys were aware of that.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Yeah. Thanks for noticing. I'll be at that.
And back to the asset map, what is kind of the wiggle room of capturing what's actually what we think in our downtown footprint versus kind of the larger area of our community?
That's a good question for Amy and Chandra.
I think you do have wiggle room. I know in the beginning I talked about boundaries and it's just rough assessments, but oftentimes you have features like the community that's nestled in a suburb of DC or others that play into your asset, but they're not the primary core of the assets of your community, of your district. So you really want to kind of focus on the assets that are roughly within the boundaries. But if you have a lot of spillover due to one asset that really affects or impacts through the economic, the social, the built, your district, I think you can list that, but just note it that it's not necessarily it's not a primary asset that's within your boundaries, generic boundaries.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I was going to ask the same question because like I have for the built, I mean, we have the regional airport, we have an Amtrak station, we've got the mountains, they're not all in our little, if we're looking at our 11th Street district, but they're all, they're the the parkway nearby, you know.
I think they help support the economic vitality, but they're not your assets for your district necessarily. So, for instance, the main streets that are within New Orleans, we have a large, or even in Atlanta, Sweet Auburn is a main street in downtown Atlanta, but the airport is further away. They wouldn't categorize that as they have the MLK Park within their boundaries. They have historic restaurant buildings and a light rail that somehow passes directly through, not kind of gets people to the district. So they can count that because it is literally through their district. I call it the light rail to nowhere as an Atlanta native, but it goes to the aquarium and Coca-Cola, but it somehow doesn't stop at Sweet Auburn as well. So you want to really capture those that are within the boundaries. For the feeder ones, some people may utilize a park or your courthouse, or they may be from another area. That to me is what you're capturing, those individuals when you're capturing that asset, but not necessarily capturing one that people may use and then come to you all that's not within that area. I see another.
Thank you.
Ellen?
Yes, could you connect the dots for me again under the natural asset? You mentioned like a coffee shop that's been around forever. So help me understand how that's a natural asset.
So we're using natural with some wiggle room because some communities have maybe a community that's nestled and their natural asset is they were previously a coal mining community, or maybe a space that had a industrial aspect, but really currently they really have just maybe a church, the coffee shop that's been there for 50 plus years. And it is your cherished spaces. So it's really leaning into your green space, your walkways, your views. But for those that may not have that, kind of speaking of a third place that is so ingrained into your community that it's not really a natural asset by pure definition, to your point, but can be looked at as one. But that's for you all don't have the lack of green space or the, so you have plenty of natural assets. And also a lot of that, when I talked about industrial spaces, the natural assets that affect the climate also are great for kind of environmental assets as well. So they can be lumped into those, and the environmental sustainability, which you all also have in a lot of the communities. But yeah, that's kind of the through line if the community just doesn't have.
And go on and throw that slide up for social also that looks like this natural asset so I can see. Thank you.
Lots of choices. We've got a comment in the chat from Molly asking about bus routes and would bus routes count as an asset? And I would say absolutely, but again, it does matter. Is it just passing through, or is it helping create connectivity, maybe creating gathering spaces? Transit stops can be a huge asset. But the train example that Chandra just talked about, if there isn't any way to get off the train or to land in the district, then it's a different situation. But certainly transit can be an amazing asset.
These are good questions.
Sure. I defer to the chat later. Thank you, Molly. I think this is also good when you get a collective group to hear and see what they believe is an asset versus what you may have leaned into or what you may be marketing and promoting the most, that may not necessarily be what others cherish within the community. I talked to someone in Maryland that loved the light rail to nowhere in Sweet Auburn just last week, and I was like, it goes nowhere. But I was thinking about the feasibility for someone that lives in the area. But oftentimes within your asset mapping, you may have to do a few, because some may capture just for residents, some may capture tourists, some may capture both, and there may be that wiggle room and space for both. So don't feel like it has to be the catch-all within just one and just one time that you're working with your collective to come up with these components, and they could change. with development, some of these assets may also change a little bit. And so how does that play into being an asset? Like with the development of the bus route, there may be more potential or avocation around having it connecting to the district because of that purpose. So then you could lean more into that being an asset versus if it's kind of going around you and not really a way to connect people to your district.
And I think for those who might, still looking for more clarity around the different assets, I think you'll find that the guide that accompanies the actual tool, that little table that Main Street America's created, will explain this even further. It's not long, but it will help to define exactly what you're doing really well. I think you're going to find that to be most helpful. Oh, that's some really good conversations. So I think that you're also going to find these slides once I get them up and loaded. Looking back on what some of this discussion generated may help you a little bit too to expand your thinking or understand a little bit more about each of the assets that you're exploring.
I see Douglas has got a hand up.
Yeah, and this is not a question, it's more of an observation, and this is a terrific session. Thank you so much. I just want to invite folks to think about this as, really a strategic space. And there might be some assets that are outside of the district, say like a healthcare center or hospital. And when they see themselves on the asset list or don't see themselves on it, it'll prompt some questions or thoughts. So while they might not be in the district, they might see ways to invest in the district or create something that is tangible there. And then the storytelling aspect, we didn't touch on that much, but that narrative, kind of where you have a plot and there's a change and a shift, every district has gone through that. And it is kind of worth exploring those pivotal moments in a community or a district's history. And part of that is identifying what core character comes out of the community. What their, is it resilience? Is it like, what have they observed about themselves? And that characteristic of the district might even be a building block as well, although it might not fit in one of those categories. But this is a terrific session. Thank you.
Thank you. I know we touched a little bit about the service assets, but that is really, speaking of the hospital, that is kind of the outlier example of, and especially depending on the proximity to urban, suburban, rural, like that is a community asset. That's what they have. Same thing with the schools. And you may have one school within the area that may not, traverse through the district, but is really a key asset and potentially a social aspect with the PTA, et cetera, that may not be directly in your district. So thanks for that point that you can pull those into those spaces, but especially with the service asset.
Yeah. Well, thank you all. It is 12:29. And Amy and Chandra, thank you guys so much for all the hard work and bringing this session together. I'll get this stuff up on the Google Drive ASAP. I'll throw a few things up there right now while I'm eating lunch. The rest of it will come soon. So, but
Thank you, Kyle.
guys.
Everybody.
Yeah,
Thank you all.
absolutely.
Great job,
Thank
Kyle.
you. Have a great day.
Thanks. The breakout rooms worked. So
They did.
yeah, you did good.
It was